you this morning. There's quite a lot of Celtic news to get around about this morning. Celtic, the team will be up in Ross County. I've seen mates already leaving to go up to Ross County, even ones that have flew in from Belfast to head up to the game in Dingwall. Fantastic little road trip up there, and let's all you have a great journey. But before we talk about Celtic Ross County, there has been some information that Celtic fans may find interesting coming out of South America last night. And so the first one coming out of South America is regarding Alexandro Bernabe. Yes, that Celtic player that is out on loan, Alexandro Bernabe. There's a surprising story coming out of South America with Alexandro Bernabe. He scores a goal last night. He scores. Yep, Alexandro Bernabe scores a goal. It was a deflection, but it was a goal. Yeah, Alexandro Bernabe did score his first goal for his team, which is fantastic for Bernabe, you've got to say. It gets him a little confidence boost, but I've watched the goal, and it was a deflection. But it is good news. He's still on the Celtic books. I think does that not run it in December? So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Alexandro Bernabe come December, because I'm sure his loan deal does run out in December. But he did score a goal yesterday and last night. Fantastic goal it was, but it was a deflection, and he celebrated like he had just won the Champions League. But fair play to I'm always looking at Dyson. Fair play to Alexandro Bernabe. But we need to talk about another player from South America. We'll talk about him in just a minute. I'm going to jump into the comments section first of all, just to say good morning to everyone that has joined us in the live this morning. First up was Desmond Donnelly, whose daughter raised 25 grand by sleeping out in Glasgow. Fantastic amount of money. And when people that follow the channel and their family members do fantastic things for charity, you have to acknowledge that. You have to acknowledge it. And fair play to Desmond Donnelly's daughter, who raised 25 grand. 25 grand by sleeping out with 100 other people in Glasgow just the other night. Mr. Quinn's in the house here, boys and girls. Carly's in the house. Morning to all my beautiful people. Mark is in the house. Morning to Celtic family. And Evan Sean's in the house. He needs loaned out, talking about Palma, to get him some time to see if he can pull back some of his football. We're going to talk about Lewis Palma in a minute, because he's had a massive blow. Is it a massive blow, or is it going to be a good thing for Celtic? And the noises coming out of South America, he might not be going anywhere. Mappy says most likely dropped by Honduras, and Mappy gets it on the head. And Carlos says all the Sims are here. Thanks again, Baz, says Desmond Donnelly. Pork Chops says morning troops. Desmond, you've got to tell people about it. Do you know what I mean? And it's my job to tell people about good things that good Celtic people do. And the fact that you were sitting that night with your three granddaughters all in their Celtic talks makes it even more pleasing. Roger Smith says, morning all, hope you have a superb Sunday. And Neil Kelly says, he's en route to Dingwall for Ullapool. Wimpy burger incoming in Dingwall. I'm not jealous at all, honestly. Oh, Jesus. No jealous at all. Honestly. Anyway, let's get on to the one and only little Honduran who plays for Celtic. Lewis Palma. If you remember at the last international break, Lewis Palma was told by his international manager that he needs to get more game time for Celtic. It's as simple as that. He needs to be playing more for Celtic. People seen it in Scotland as the international manager meddling in Celtic concerns and saying that, like, Palma's not getting game time because he's not on good form this season. Well, last night he was dropped. Lewis Palma has been dropped from the international team, which is a massive blow for the player because he is a bit of an icon. Whether we like it or not, he has got a good reputation in Honduras, and he is one of their pin-up boys in Honduras, and he's a fantastic player for them when he plays for them, but he has been dropped due to lack of game time. and he's had a word with Brendan Rodgers. It was expected that he would be loaned out come this next transfer window, but he has told Brendan Rodgers that he wants to stay at Celtic and fight for his position in the team. It was expected, a lot of people were talking about the fact that Lewis Palma will get loaned out. I'm reading two different things here. Lewis Palma would get loaned out, but Lewis Palma has told Brendan Rodgers that he wants to stay and fight for his position in the team. He wants to make it work at Celtic. He knows if he gets loaned out from Celtic, he's never coming back. If you look at Alexandro Bernabe, he's spent the best part of a year and a half now out on loan, and it's very unlikely, even though Alexandro Bernabe scored a screamer of a goal from outside the box last night. It took a deflection, to be fair. But Luis Palma has spoken seemingly to the Celtic manager, and the Honduras manager has also spoken to Brendan Rodgers, and they are leaving him in Glasgow so he can impress Brendan Rodgers in training. So it looks like he's going to stay back in Glasgow and regain his fitness, work on his fitness, and working well on his uncovering that football ability that is in there as a player. So yeah, that's the breaking news when it comes to the one and only Luis Palma. He's not going to be going away on this international break. He's going to knuckle down, get into the gym seemingly, and prove to Brendan Rodgers that there's still a player in there. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. Let's jump back into the comments. PS3 Retro TV is out this morning. How are you, mate? As soon as Des Don, I thought about her daughter straight away, raising that money for the homeless is fantastic, said Carly. Desmond Donnelly, hail, hail, great stuff from your girl. Caitlin's her name. Caitlin. There you go. And it's cloudy where Davey is this morning. Porteous Express. My heart goes out to your daughter, Desmond. I'm just jumping through the comments. Morning Baz, another 6-0 today. I think Palmer puts his head down and starts pressing more. We can get the player. There is a player in there, but we all want it. It's down to him. Says Big Chewy. I think that there is a player in there. But Lewis Palmer gets too greedy, and his final pass is what seems to let him down. I think the threat of being sent out on loan has given him that little kick up the ass. You know, he's obviously had conversations with Brendan Rodgers, and he's had conversations with his international boss, and his international boss is in full agreement with Palmer that he needs to knuckle down. Listen, his international boss will know that if Lewis Palmer can do it at Celtic, and if he can do it in the Champions League, and he gets that move to Europe, which ultimately Lewis Palmer wants. We all know this. Lewis Palmer ultimately wants to get a move to Spain. It is the league that most Hondurans want to play in, instead of the outback of Scottish football. He wants to get over to where they speak Spanish, not South American Spanish. It's completely different, so don't think that both Spanishes are the same. South American Spanish is completely different from, and any Colombians that I know struggle with Spanish when they first come over also, never mind Hondurans. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see if Lewis Palmer's on the bench today. I reckon he will be on the bench. Will he get any game time? He never got any game time in Germany, and let's face it, it wouldn't have mattered if Lewis Palmer come on. What happened in Germany, and I think Brendan was right not to change and bring Lewis Palmer on. Could have been even worse. But Lewis Palmer's got a lot of work to do. I think there is a player in there. It's just unfortunate that the two wingers that we do have playing, Nico Kuhn and Dyson Maeda. Dyson Maeda, has to be said, this season is the best player at Celtic, without a doubt. If you're handed a player of the ability of Dyson Maeda at Celtic, and he's a fantastic talent, and not only does he run, he's a fantastic talent, but he does have his little flaws, and he's finishing sometimes, and you're going to say, but well, wait a minute, he's scored a cracking couple of goals this season when he gets into the middle of the park. You know, there is Dyson Maeda is undroppable for me just now. And how does Lewis Palmer get onto the team when you've got Nico Kuhn and Dyson Maeda that are just absolutely running themselves into the ground for Celtic? And they're not only running themselves into the ground for Celtic, They're taking on players. They're winning duels. They're getting crosses in. They're getting assists. And that's where Lewis Palma has been failing. Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers has already suggested that there's no player in the world superior to Dyson Maeda when it comes to pressing opposing teams, when it comes to defending from the front, and the pace that Dyson Maeda has got to get back when the ball gets past him. The pace that he's got back, that he's got to come from attacking right up next to the box to then seeing a ball that's been crossed over diagonally and run towards the player that it's going to. It's just a frightening pace. And having someone like Dyson Maeda in the team, Lewis Palma needs to be watching him in training. And never mind trying to do the fancy footwork, South American stuff. It's just do the basics. Just do the basics and watch how Dyson does the basics. Once you do the basics to an extraordinary level of football, then the fancy footwork and that can come in. And that's the natural side of Lewis Palma's game. If he does the basics right into a fantastic ability that he hasn't really been doing, then the natural side of South American football will come into Lewis Palma's game. But he needs to ultimately sit down and watch what Dyson and Nico Kuhn are doing. Because Nico Kuhn on the other side also is a player that's running down the wings, taking on players. I'm not suggesting that Lewis Palma can't take on players. I think that he takes on players and then he struggles to think what he's going to do with the ball. He sometimes takes a shot that is completely wild, or it comes off a player, or he just makes the wrong pass completely. He holds on to the ball too long. He needs to be watching Nico Kuhn and Dyson Maeda, and it's as simple as that. And once he does that, hopefully he'll get back into the team. And he can start proving to Brendan. Because I don't want to see him. I don't really want to see him disappear. I want the guy to live his dream. I want him to be a success at Celtic, and then ultimately I want Celtic to get a big, massive payday when he's sold to a team in Spain. And that's the real reason behind it. Because the more that we get these players progressing, and if they do go backwards when they're at Celtic, they're put on loan and then they're shipped out, and then we're losing money. So that's why I want Lewis Palma to succeed at Celtic, not just for him as a player. But let him live his dream. Let him get that move to Spain that he wants. But let Celtic get a big chunk of cash in the door for him, just to noise up their noisy neighbours across the road. Anyway, let's jump back into the comments section. Jim Dolan says, "Morning, Baz." Big Dom says he'll be gone in January and replaced in the window. Well, not according to a lot of the media this morning that are saying after him being allowed to stay at Celtic and being dropped by the international boss, the word going around is that he's had a word with Brendan Rodgers and his international boss, and he wants to stay and fight for his place at Celtic. So he's obviously had the talk with Brendan, and Brendan's went, look, maybe you need to go out on loan just to get game time. And ultimately, when that happens, it's never a good ending for the player, and that's why he's turned around and said, nope, I'm not going on international duty. I'm going to get stuck a bit in the gym. I'm going to prove to Brendan that I am a player and that I am worthy of a place in this team. Jim Dolan says, morning, Baz. Just in after a walk with the pooch. I just chucked mine out in the big garden. We'll take her a walk out later. Spacey says, hi from the Highlands, boys. It's like a home game for us up north. It is, Spacey, it is like a home game for you guys up north, because you another set of buses that have to leave way before everyone else to get to Celtic Park. The same with the Coventry bus and the Liverpool bus, and etc. I mean, you guys up north spend a vast amount of time travelling up and down to games, so it's good that you've got Ross County. And I hope you enjoy the game. He's going for 4-0, the Hoops. Gary Haycroft saying good morning to everyone. Bobsky's saying, sup yo. Sup yo. Pete Rennie said, morning Baz, hail hail. Miss Quinn says, Carly, when I get into town, I always sit and have a chat with the homeless, especially the ones I know. Always grab them a food. And yeah, I've done that here a few times. There's one crazy, he's not even Spanish, I think he's South American, but we call him, he was in the National Guard in Spain, and he's homeless and stuff, and he walks about with his shopping trolley and stuff, and he just shouts crazy stuff all the time, just It's absolutely bonkers. But I've taken him for breakfast a few times, and he really appreciates it. He does really appreciate it, and he's homeless through no fault of his own. But it's always good to do things like that. Anyway, we move on to the Celtic news. Turn your caps off, Jesus. That's to Mr. Quinton because he's typing everything in caps. Sean says his goal contributions were decent last season, talking about Louis Palma. Then he went missing after that injury he got. That's why the international boss, Evan Sean, has said he needs to stay at Celtic and regain his fitness and impress the Celtic manager. That's the reason that it's been given that he is not travelling to Honduras to even sit on the bench for Honduras. They want him to get back fully fit and show Brendan Rodgers that he is a player. Desmond Donald says he's going for 3-0. And amazing Arne Engels' first goal for Celtic. Well, he's had a few penalties, but he's not had a goal from open play as yet. Richard Smith says, I agree, there's definitely a player in there, but he needs to stop trying too hard to impress and play his natural game. I think that his natural game is to take on players, and I think he's not doing the basics well enough. His natural game is to take on players and have that flair play, kind of South American type football. But in Scottish football, when you've got teams, and it's fine, under a Martin O'Neill team, Lewis Palma would be an absolute star. Because teams weren't sitting back then. They weren't sitting with a back five or a back six and this low block. And in this type of football, the current environment in Scottish football does not allow for pacey wingers to really... I mean, you're going to say, well, Dyson Myers does it, no problem. Nico Kuhn does it. But the South American style of play, where they sort of get down the wing and then into the box, round players, tackles come in hard in Scotland. And I think that's where Lewis Palmer's letting himself down, because he's trying to get past players, he's waiting on the tackle coming in, and he's making ultimately the wrong pass in the final third. Now, Brendan Rodgers has spoken about the final third many, many times in the past and how players need to up their game in the final third. And I think that's where Lewis Palmer is ultimately letting himself down. And maybe his fitness levels just haven't been there. And that's why the Honduras manager has said, stay in Scotland, work on your fitness, work on getting back into the Celtic team. Prove to the Celtic manager that you still are that player that Celtic saw when they picked him up from South America, and prove that you are still that player and you've still got it. And hopefully it gets your confidence back up, and then ultimately you'll get back into the Honduras team, which he wants. But what is next for Lewis Palma after that devastating blow? I think that he will knuckle down. He's obviously going to make the trip up to Ross County today. We'll see if he gets on. And you've got to remember, Ross County, it's not a wide pitch. It's not the widest of pitches up in Ross County, so you're not going to get the width that you normally get at Celtic Park. You know, it is a nice compact stadium. Ross County game it's always compact up there. You don't get much room to manoeuvre at all. Statistically, it's a game that Celtic should win. Statistically, it's a game that Celtic always win. But it's never easy. It is never easy. And maybe the manager will see a little change this afternoon in the second half, just to freshen things up after the exploits of the Borussia Dortmund game. I think he'll be angry at what happened during the week, and we'll turn it right from the off. Talking about Celtic, I agree there's definitely a player in there, but he needs to stop trying hard to impress at his natural game. Pork Chops Express says could have had Messi on the side on Tuesday and it wouldn't have made a difference. No, it wouldn't have. Not at all. You could have had Henrik Larsson in that team and it wouldn't have made a difference. Anyone know who the officials are? I've not really looked, and it doesn't care. Palma belongs on Love Island, not a football pitch, says Big Dom. He should be used. He should be used to the Scottish play. I heard Palma loves crunching tacos. Nothing wrong with crunching tacos. I think a lot of people. That was just going off on a tangent. I'll leave that one. Paradise Found says, I'm late in because the doctors were around my bed. I hope you're joking, Paradise Found, because that's never a good thing in the morning. I hope you're okay. Pork Chop Express says, good morning to you, mate. Says, Stephen Johnston is in the house. Maradona was better. Yeah, it was that. Maradona was the hand of God. Hail from the city of Dunfermline, the historic capital of the Seven Kings that lay in the town that was meant to be the capital, but lost out to St Andrews. Devastating. Paradise Found says, morning Stephen Johnson, hope you're good. And Palma is left back, crunching tacos, sorry. I wondered where you were going with that. Left back in the dressing room, yeah. Anyway, Dyson Myra, let's get on to Dyson Myra, because Dyson Myra is the man of the moment as far as Celtic are concerned. There's little doubt that the little man from Japan, who has been called up to the national team. I looked on his Instagram after watching the Alexandro Bernabe goal. Yeah, if you go into Alexandro Bernabe's Instagram, it has video footage of the goal. It's a fantastic one, I've got to say. That's a cracker. Oh dear, I've just lost the Instagram. What did I do that for? Celtic quiz. Where's Louis Palma? Anyway, if you go into Louis Palma's Instagram, you'll see Alexandro Bernabe. So the ball comes out. Alexandro Bernabe is on the edge of the box. He takes a shot. It takes a wicked deflection and goes over the keeper. That's a fantastic stadium that he's playing in. That's a cracking stadium, by the way. See if we can get it on stories. Once you finish this, jump on. I'll put it on there. And anyway, that's it for this morning news. We will be live 1 hour and 15 minutes before kick-off today. Hail from a wet Livy. Raining back home. It's all the taco chat. The munchies are horrible, Carly. She's got the munchies. Ross County are going to get pumped today, says T1. Pork Chop Express says Maradona was the best footballer on the planet ever. Was that? Stephen says, bad news, Baz. 11 refugees have just got off a boat and want to play for Rangers. Well, that's bad news for the Rangers, isn't it? It's bad news for them. Why would you want to play for Rangers? Stephen says Crazy Maida is going to from Glasgow to Japan and then sprint to training on Tuesday. You could actually see that Dyson Maida just getting the canoe on his shoulders and way down to the Clyde, away in his canoe, right all the way down to Japan. There the hills, and then that's it. Anyway, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans. I will see you 1 hour and 15 minutes before the game today. A little recap on the news. Dyson Maida is the best player in Scottish football. We all know that. Louis Palma has been dropped from the international team. He's told Brendan Rodgers that he does not want put out on loan. The international boss has dropped him from the team so that he can get fully fit at Celtic and prove to Brendan Rodgers that he is a player. And he still wants to stay at Celtic. On that note, we're sitting on 19,067 subscribers. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. And I'll see you in just a few hours.